going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Frontline. I am your host, Tim Riley, aka Reese, and we're joined with my co-host, AJ. What's going on, brother?
How's it going, everybody? Got a very special guest for everybody in the house today.
Yes, sir. All the way from the Dynasty Nerds, also from the
No,
Face Off
close enough.
Sports Network. Thanks for coming out, Steve. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
I'm
Doing
great.
doing as good as I can on a off-season Sunday.
I just finished up a workout, getting ready for these rookies. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I've still got, pre-workout flowing through the veins. So I'm doing great. I guess let's just get straight into it. Why don't you go ahead and plug yourself up and let everybody know where they can find you?
All right, sounds good. So my name's Steve Bradshaw. If you want to follow my Twitter, it's at Steve Bradshaw FF, and I work for Face Off Sports Network and Dynasty Nerds. Those two companies. I've been working for both of them for quite some time now. Nerds more recently, but both great companies, and I just write articles for them, and then I do some guest podcast type stuff on the side, and just been getting into that. So super excited to be on the Fantasy Frontline.
Hey, we appreciate you coming by, man. I know you're a busy man. I believe you told me you just got your credentials for the NFL Combine. How you feeling?
Yeah. I'm super excited, super stressed, to be honest. I've never went, and it's the information they give us is great, but it's hard to find stuff like online to like know what to expect when you're actually there. So I've been just trying to prep, you know.
Hey, you can never prep too much,
Exactly.
For sure.
So what we like to do here is we like to, ask a few questions and, give the listeners a little bit of an insight into who you are, and just the fantasy community and
Get to know you as a fantasy football player and
right.
as a person, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So I got a couple questions here for you. We'll run through them real quick. First question: how long have you been playing fantasy football?
So I've been playing fantasy football for about 5 years. I just started playing with my friends ever since I was young, and I really liked redraft for a while. I never even knew Dynasty was a thing when I was younger, but I really liked being super involved. And I was like, well, there's so much more you can do in Dynasty than redraft. There's trading was my favorite part, so I was like, well, I want to do Dynasty. Did that with my friends for a little bit. And then I wanted to take it up a notch, do some more competitive stuff. So I began doing research type stuff and all that. But yeah, I've been playing for 5 years, not as long as, I'm sure some other people, but it's been a fun ride. And I really love it, obviously.
I mean, we're all kind of, I guess you could say, newbies compared to, some of the older players.
Right.
Some people have been
wild.
playing since you had to get all your scores from USA Today.
Yeah. That's wild.
So what got you started in creating content?
So I used to create YouTube videos actually, and I used to make sports type videos for a YouTube channel with my friends that had like 2,000 subscribers, and that was really fun. But that company, I worked with a few other people that would pay us like small money because we were monetized. Like we had over 1,000 subscribers, like decent views, but that wasn't really continued past then. And I had just a lot of free time, really, to be honest. Like this past year, I'm relatively new to creating written content, as I started like a little less than a year ago. And I started my own website called Optimal Fantasy Football and posted my content on Reddit. And that began to do well, and I just really loved it and took off from there and started writing for other companies.
Right on. Yeah. So you said you used to do YouTube videos. This isn't one of our questions we have written down, but we're just gonna roll with it. So what do you like better? Do you like appearing on podcasts? I don't know if you have your own or not, but as far as video work versus written work.
I don't have my own podcast at the moment. Just a lot of time. I love YouTube videos. I feel like it's one thing that kind of turned me away from it is I feel like it's hard to work from. It's hard to do work. Like I feel like I'm really busy with school and stuff now, so it's hard to do work like when I'm not home and all that.
Hmm.
And like just like get time to like record. And I like that I can write research everywhere because a lot of the content is just like researching, and I like that I can do that anywhere and that type of stuff. But I really do love making videos. Like since I was a kid, I've loved like watching and like creating videos. So that's kind of why I
Yeah.
got into that like podcast type thing again, where it's like
Hmm.
I don't have to run my own channel, even though I would love to in the future when I have more time. But I miss that type of itch, so that's why I'm getting back into the podcast guest game.
Yeah, I
I
definitely
say, go ahead, AJ.
no, I was definitely think I do more videos and stuff than I do writing content, even though like it's this time of the year
Mhm.
and it's during the time because like during the season I don't really like to write as much, but in the off season I like to write a lot more. But I just really think that with this way that I guess the world is going and this generation is going is I know I just like to create videos a little bit more because it reaches a broader audience. But a lot of people in the fantasy community like to read articles over watching videos. So I guess it's kind of like a hard median to
Yeah.
find, but I definitely like to do both.
Yeah, I'm more of a video guy myself. I'm not. I do a little bit of writing just like AJ, but nothing profound or anything like
Mhm.
that. So I prefer. It's just easier to express myself via audio, video,
Yeah, but I
and
definitely like to because I write for Fighting Chance Fantasy, and I just like to do every time that there's a round table, I like to jump on that because it's not like I'm having to write this whole thing. They just set up questions for you and you go in, you give like a paragraph of your opinion and that's it. And that's probably about the most writing I've been getting in recently.
so on to the next question. We got what is your ultimate goal in the fantasy football community?
So I'm just really looking to grow, become like the best writer, content creator that I can. I really love that type of just content creation. So I want to make my platform as big as possible. So obviously, like I talked about, like I started off writing, but of
Mhm.
course I'd love to get even like further, like podcasts, YouTube videos. Like writing just my first step, but I'd love
Right.
to write, be a profound top writer, do some more bigger tournaments too for fantasy football. Like I want to not just be like a writer. I want to like get in those like big underdogs, like high stakes tournaments.
Yeah.
Actually
Start
show that
making
I
some
know what
real
I'm
money.
talking about. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah,
Put the words to action.
right. That's yeah, but yeah, I'm really
So
just trying to grow and yeah,
yeah, I'm with you.
expand my platform.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you. I would love to expand my platform. I don't know if people really care what I'm talking about, but it's fun to talk about it and just have my thoughts out there. And it's crazy because some people legitimately. I remember my first where I just had somebody direct message me and like legitimately ask for my advice on like what to do. And I feel like I'm just nobody in the community. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah, it's great.
yeah.
What is your preference, redraft or dynasty? I know you kind of hit on that a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Dynasty now. I used to love redraft, but really, I just love Dynasty because of the trading aspect. That's my favorite part,
Hmm.
and just all that because there's more assets to trade. There's more trades happen in Dynasty than redraft. I feel like
Oh
so.
yeah.
It's just the research like part of it. Rookies, so much fun. I just love the extra aspect of control that there is. But don't get me
Hmm.
wrong, redraft is fun too. I love that 1 year type of deal as well. But Dynasty, I would prefer.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely love both as well. I can't say that I have a preference, but when it gets to like August that time, I'm in full redraft mode. I just
Yeah,
think from like December until August, I'm in full dynasty mode. But like once the flip switches, like I'm just obsessed with redraft. I try to cap my number of leagues, and I'm at my limit in dynasty leagues already. So I like it because I have to save as many spots as possible for redraft because I just to me, at that time of the year, it's more fun because you work the waiver wire more than you would in a dynasty league. Trades are a little bit lower than dynasty, but I feel like in the leagues that I've been in, there's still been a good amount of trades. And yeah, I just like to see like when you draft someone in a redraft league, like for this past year, for example, like the people that were getting Josh Jacobs in the 7th, the people that were getting Ramondre and Tony Pollard in the 10th. And at the end of the year, when it's all said and done, those are 3 of the top 10 guys by the end of the year. So to me, I kind of just love the aspect of seeing where the guys fall on the board and then where they fall at the end of the year in redraft.
Yeah, that's always fun. Can't really say nothing negative about that. I'm dynasty year round, pretty much 24/7 dynasty brain. It doesn't switch off. For the same reasons you said, Steve. It's more trading. I think it's a little more intricate. Requires a little bit more strategy thinking down the road, or just having different strategies in general allows for more trades to happen. You said this earlier, but is this your first combine you're going to?
Yes, it is. So I really haven't done much content creation before this year. So obviously haven't been there before. And then I believe the year before they haven't done it since 2019 because of COVID. So I'm pretty sure this is the first year it's even back up and ready for fans and everyone to go to in a few years. So yeah.
Okay, right on. So what's your thought process heading into the combine? What specifically are you going to be looking for while you're out there?
So I want to look at the measurables of players. Obviously, that's going to be really important.
Bryce Young,
risers and fallers. Yep, Bryce Young, stuff like that. Size, speed, around that same type of deal. And then just what I'm going to be really looking for when I'm on the field is like the buzz around different types of players, because the NFL GMs and scouts are going to be like right there. So you're going to be able to like hear like everything, like when Anthony Richardson, takes his throwing workout, or Bryce Young's like size measure, all that type of stuff. That's really going to be able to give me like a good idea of what the general consensus is going up and down by the NFL as a whole, where you're not going to be able to get that type of information just from watching on TV. But obviously being able to see it firsthand as well, you're going to be able to tell like how the speed like really looks and how they really look like route running, stuff like that as well. But yeah, that's my main goals for the combine, but really excited to just see all that stuff.
Is there any player or players in particular that you're excited to see that you can gain some stock on, or what? Sorry, that's just my question. Like, is there anybody that you're like particularly excited to see?
I'd say Hendon Hooker is someone I'm excited to see play, because I feel like he was really highly thought upon before that ACL injury. So I'm really excited to see like firsthand how he moves, how he plays, what the thoughts about him is, because I have no idea where he's going to go. Like, he's everywhere on draft boards, and I feel like if he gets first 3-round draft capital, he had a chance of becoming a starter at some point in the season. And he's gonna be a steal. Like right now, his ADP in Dynasty draft is like mid-second to 3rd round. If you can get a starting quarterback for that, like that's huge. So I feel like he's a little undervalued, but I want to see how he plays. And I'm a big Hendon Hooker fan. I feel like he looked amazing in college and sucks towards ACL. So I want to see how he is at the combine.
I guess my follow-up question for that is, before we hop into the next thing, is as Tim knows, I'm a big wide receiver guy. So are there any wide receivers that you're particularly excited to see, and see how legit these guys are, like actually in person, firsthand?
Yeah, so one is JSN. I'm a huge JSN guy. My number one guy in the class. So I really hope his speed is sub 6 at least.
Yeah.
And I think he can get there, but if he doesn't, that's not going to be good. But I'm really excited to see how he is, how fast he is, and how his cuts and route running look in person. Because, I'm sure you've heard about he's a slot only type of player all over Twitter. And I just kind of want to see like that type of production in person. Also,
Right.
Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, I was gonna bring him
I'm
up
not the
too.
biggest guy. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I know he's an absolute freak, and just how his overall game. I want to see how rounded his overall game is.
Yeah,
Like, I know I've heard a lot of stuff about like, oh, he
his
body
route
catches the
running,
ball.
he can't
Oh,
run
his route running
routes.
is bad. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I want to see like firsthand if it's like really that bad or like really that raw, or if it's just people making comparisons to busts in the past, and you're kind of just assuming that like because he showed this, that's how it's gonna be, and like exemplifying it. So that's gonna be huge for me as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I watched a little bit of JSN and Quentin Johnston. I'm no NFL scout by any means whatsoever, but the body catches and Quentin Johnson doesn't really high point the ball.
Yeah.
Uh, it's a little weird, but I think it's completely fixable at the next level with the right coaching, which is, I mean, it's really like a boomer bust option. A lot of people see him as the biggest boomer bust option aside from Anthony Richardson, and I'm right there with it. I'm also JSN wide receiver 1 too.
I'm before last thing I promise before we move on, but I'm actually kind of excited about this tight end class that we have coming in. I love Michael Mayer. I love Kincaid, however you say it. I'm sorry. There's a couple other guys going below them too that could be going in the second, could be going in the third, and that's pretty good for a tight end. But those first guys, Mayer and Kincaid, could be going in the first. So if I were you, I'd be excited to see those guys at the combine as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Kincaid. I'm a big Kincaid fan because it seems that Mayer is the more complete tight end, but I'm kind of struggling. Maybe I'm just an idiot and don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm kind of struggling to see why it's you would rather have Mayer over Kincaid if Kincaid is the better pass catcher.
Yeah, they
So I want to
both
see
catch
how
the ball
that
very
is.
well. I think they
Yeah,
both catch the ball very. Michael
yeah,
Mayer might be more athletic, but I just
yeah,
from what I've seen in the film that I've watched of Kincaid, just the way like the ball just sticks to him when it's in the
yeah,
air, honestly, and he
yeah,
makes freakishly athletic catches. And I'm excited to see both because I'm targeting both of those
yeah,
guys
yeah.
in my startup drafts and in my
Me
rookie
too.
drafts.
I seen me and Aaron St. Dennis, FF Mad Scientist, we did a mock draft last week. Dalton Kincaid went 111 overall to the Titans, and it was just the most outlandish
Yeah,
thing
that
I've ever seen in
was
my life.
wild. I don't know about
I
all
mean, I
that,
like the
but
guy. I like the guy a
yeah,
lot, but I don't know.
right. Yeah, I don't know about all that. Let's say.
Um, ran through all the guest interview questions. So let's get to some listener questions. I've asked some people, um, basically just questions they wanted to ask you heading into the combine. Um, from Cowboy 1992, he says, "How does the 40-yard dash affect your draft stock, regardless of great college production?" Which I assume is a hidden
Yeah.
JSN tweet.
Yeah. So it depends. Okay, first off, the other side of the way, it's most important at running back and tight end. So even though we are looking at for JSN, it's not going to drop him down even if he runs bad. Like 3 rounds, like it may at like a running back or tight end type position. It seems that if a running back or tight end doesn't run well, that's a big deal breaker for NFL teams, and it's going to drop them down from being a second round pick to a fourth or fifth round pick. Wide
Yeah.
receivers, they can just go, oh, yeah, well, he can be a slot guy. We still love the production he provides. We're just not going to bump him up to that first round. He's a second round guy now. We'll take him there. But historically, a 4.4 to 4.9 is the NFL wide receiver most like productive range. So that's what we're looking for JSN to run near that. If he runs a sub 4, mid 4.5, that's okay. But yeah, if you have a really good, if you're depending on your 40-yard dash, it's going to drop you down a lot. But if you're a great college player like JSN was, who had fantastic production nonetheless, it might drop you down. It probably will, but it's not going to plummet.
Yeah, I don't think
draft
there's anything
boards.
JSN can do to not go in the first round. But I guess
Yeah.
my pushback on that would be like in the history of this league, we've seen because the 40-yard dash, yeah, it could push it down a little bit, but historically we've seen it also help players like I say John
Yeah.
Ross. He was
100%.
freakishly fast, ran a 4.2, and he went in the first round, and he hasn't really done anything. So I guess what I'd be looking for talking to Cowboy 1992 is if because we could see someone that we don't even know about that runs a freakish 40, and the next thing you know, he's going in the first round or he's going in the second round. So I guess my pushback on that is like, would you necessarily be on that player or bite on that player if you did see something that was freakishly fast in the 40?
No, I am a I so players like Jalen Hyatt, Jamison Williams, they're great NFL players, but what a lot of people fail to understand is that they're going to get that first round draft capital because they're extremely valuable, because they're going to be used to scheme and run deep and clear out space underneath. But in fantasy football, that doesn't get you any points. We're looking for those target hogs. And while they're incredibly great players, they're not going to show up on the stat sheet. But NFL teams love that. So they're not necessarily bad players that are being overvalued because they're going to get 40. No, they're good players and they deserve to be drafted in the first round. It just doesn't equate to fantasy as much. So you still got to look for those other volume type things like where do they play? Like in the slot, can they route run? Then are they going to get targets at the NFL level? But yeah, that's my take on that.
And then no, you go, Tim. I'll ask a
All
question
right.
after you.
I'll just I don't think there's any one particular part of the combine that will really plummet you down unless you're just
It can only help you.
you
Is the way
can't
I
bench
see it.
press.
If you do great
But
on one of the drills, it can only help you.
yeah, it's just a combination of all those things put together, and they're looking at the complete package. Um, that's my thought process on it. I don't think anybody who doesn't run a 4.5 is necessarily slow, and I don't think it'll severely affect their draft stock. Next question is from Joey Slays. He says, I would love to hear about the non-tangible, I assume intangibles, of the incoming quarterback class. Who's the leader? Who has the most confidence and poise? Who seemingly is the most competitive? I really like going after guys with that mentality, and it's hard to find that type of information. Yeah, I think that's more of a post-combine kind of question.
But I mean, we've seen in big games who has the right mentality and who doesn't. And this is me leaning towards because we saw how CJ Stroud played against Georgia. I mean, there was no way the way they've played all year that they shouldn't have got smashed by Georgia, if we're being honest. And I felt like they were in that game because of how good CJ Stroud played and just his willingness to win. So I guess that's where I'm going with that question. Steve could have a completely different answer, but I really, really am liking because like I like CJ Stroud, but after that Georgia game, I really like CJ Stroud. So I mean, I feel like that was all mentality.
So no, yeah, like what Tim said about we're gonna get a better idea of this after the combine. It's kind of hard to find as much information, but I did some digging, and I actually ended up with the same answer as you. I got CJ Stroud from that Georgia game too, and just articles I've seen about him leading up to the draft just said that he shows really good leadership, poise all year, and stuff like that, games like that against Georgia, and his teammates and players, coaches really love him, and they've been talking about him a lot in the interviews. So there's not too much information at the moment that really anyone stands out besides CJ Stroud. But I really agree with you, and I like CJ Stroud a lot after seeing that leadership type poise in that Georgia game, and I'm really liking CJ Stroud right now.
And then I just wanted to harp on that 40-yard dash thing real quick and I was going to go for the low-hanging fruit actually because everybody Bijan is like the consensus 1-1 in our rookie drafts. And is the 1-1's going in startups at the turn, going in the middle? Like it's really variant of where that 1-1 is going. But what I want to ask is, so Bijan is not a lock to go in the first round of the actual NFL draft, but you say he marks in a remarkable time in the 40-yard dash. Do you think he is a first round lock?
I'd say he has a really good chance. I'm not going to put a lock on anything, no matter what he does, just because of what we've seen at the running back position. I'm going to be totally honest. I'm not sure how many teams are willing to invest into a first round running back with what we've seen about the market. But if he does get a 40-yard time that's amazing, I think he has a fantastic shot to be a first round pick as opposed to like what we have now. But there's nothing really I can say that he's going to be a lock just because of how the market is at the moment.
I just want to see if we as fantasy managers are like more hyped about Bijan than actual NFL teams.
No, I
Are.
don't think they shouldn't be though, because the way I see it is teams are just scared to invest in running back. But talent wise, Bijan's a top 10 talented player in this draft in my eyes.
Mhm.
So
Oh, yeah,
like if this was back in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017 when Saquon got drafted, I think he'd be going in that top 10 range when teams weren't as scared to reach for a running back. I just think he's worth the reach because you don't have to be dumb and pay him his second contract. Just a team that needs a running back right now, a team that has 2 firsts right now in the first round, I think it would be smart to lean that direction because he can be a game-changing type of talent.
Yeah, I think he's more than likely going to be a first rounder simply for that fifth round option or that fifth year option. I think that's really going to entice teams to want to keep a player like Bijan on their rosters long term. Um, let's get in. Oh man, we're about halfway through. Let's get into some offseason dynasty buys and sells. Um,
We'll let Steve go first. We'll let
let
Steve go
Steve go
first here.
first.
We'll go one at a
All
time
right.
on the buys.
All right. So to start it off, I have my number one buy is Treylon Burks. So Treylon Burks, I was a huge Treylon Burks fan coming out of Arkansas, and he went to the dream landing spot at the time, the
Mhm.
Titans, and he was the wide receiver 3 or so with an ADP in rookie drafts, and he really didn't even have a bad year. It was just more plagued by injuries, and the
Right.
quarterback play was terrible. Ryan Tannehill, who's not even an amazing quarterback, wasn't even playing half the year. We had Malik Willis and Josh Dobbs, who were just awful. So I mean, what can you really like expect from him from that? And I mean, he had 8.6 points per game, sure, but he only played 11 games and showed flashes. Like he wasn't terrible. In weeks 11 and 12, I saw he had 18 and 17.1 points. So I think we're expecting. We put tags on him like he's the AJ Brown replacement, and we're kind of expecting him to be amazing year one in spite of all these terrible circumstances. So that's who I got.
I just think I'm with you on that buy. I'd love to have Treylon Burks. So I guess my pushback on that is, what do the Titans need to do at quarterback, and what would you pay for Treylon Burks right now?
The Titans need to do anything
Yeah, I'm
besides
with you on
Malik
that.
Willis.
Anything.
Malik Willis is not the answer. Josh Dobbs not the answer. Tannehill could be fine for this year if he plays a full season. They need to
Mhm.
go and draft a quarterback in early rounds. Not another Malik Willis experiment, even though Hendon Hooker's in this draft, and I love Hendon Hooker, but
I would like that
I'm
a
not
lot.
sure about all that.
I
I
mean,
think they need to invest in an elite quarterback.
maybe getting someone like Hendon Hooker would light a fire in Malik Willis, and there'd be a full-fledged
Yeah.
young quarterback competition that could really bring out the best
Right.
of both of those young quarterbacks. Because honestly, like, yeah, Treylon Burks, I mean, Malik Willis couldn't throw the ball downfield for nothing. But we saw that a little bit more from Dobbs, and Dobbs fed the ball to Treylon Burks. Like, we saw that. We saw Burks have a decent outing in that Dallas game Thursday night when
Yeah.
half the Titans team was out and nobody thought they'd hang around. But yeah, Burks did his thing that night, and I'm really with buying Burks.
Yeah, I'm also on that train. Burks was my wide receiver one last year. I was terribly wrong, but that doesn't mean Burks isn't good. So um, I can get down with that for sure. Why don't you go ahead next, AJ?
I guess I'm gonna stick with wide receiver, and this is for only before they get a quarterback, whether it's Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, whatever they do. But I'm really still a believer, and this might be a surprise to y'all, but I'm buying him for the cheap, cheap. Um, I think Elijah Moore. If they get
Ooh.
another quarterback, he can be a solid number two alongside Garrett Wilson, and you can get him for dirt right now. He's going
Mhm.
like past the 15th round in your startups, and we're seeing a real emergence from Garrett Wilson, which means he's going to start seeing better coverage. And if they get a better quarterback, they're going to be looking for those easy underneath routes that target hog that Elijah Moore could be. He's good with the football after the catch. He just really had a huge sophomore slump, and I'm buying him for the low because it's no risk and nothing but reward, in my opinion.
I'm not fully on the Elijah Moore train, but I understand the thought process behind it. Um,
If they got Derek Carr, I think Elijah Moore has a year that could be better than his rookie year.
my thing is right is getting a new quarterback isn't going to suddenly change Robert Salah's his philosophy. Right, it's a pound the rock team. Elijah Moore is going to be a solid wide receiver 3 or 4. So I mean, it depends on what your expectations are for him.
No,
Uh,
yeah, I don't have high expectation. I just think that he could fill because we're in dynasty leagues and those rosters are
mhm.
significantly deeper than what you would have in a redraft, especially the starting rosters. You could be going three wide receiver, three flex, two running back, a tight end, and a super flex. So if you're looking for a decent player to fill your last flex spot, I'm just really banking on if they get a quarterback that can actually throw the football downfield because I mean Flacco couldn't do it, Zach Wilson couldn't do it, Mike White could kind of do it, but Mike White's thing was throwing to the running backs.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm just really on that. Like if Derek Carr can go there, then he can fill that Hunter Renfro type of role, and
Right.
have a wide receiver three type of season that gives me like 9 points per game, 10 points per game, 11 points per game because you need
Uh,
those type of guys on your dynasty rosters, in my opinion.
So what are you paying for him? Let's just keep it in terms of draft picks.
I'd pay anything after like if you can get Elijah Moore for like the 211, the 212,
Mm,
I mean maybe someone just really wants draft picks and um the 3-1, something along there where this person really feels like they're getting an upgrade because I mean it's pretty deep at wide receiver this year, but yeah, I just really think that he's still a young asset and that he could really emerge with a better quarterback.
yeah, I mean you saw his rookie year what he's capable of doing. So yeah, for a late into the round pick, into the second round pick, yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't love Elijah Moore, but like you said, I think his value is only going to go up this year. But I don't really
Mhm.
have huge expectations. I think, like you said, he can get 9 points per game, be a nice depth piece. But I don't really expect him to be an elite player ever because I
Yeah,
just
no,
haven't
I'm not
really
expecting
seen
elite
enough.
Yeah.
production from him.
Yeah, even wide receiver two numbers, I feel like is a
Yeah,
little too
that's even a
high.
stretch.
But
Yeah,
yeah, wide
for
receiver
sure.
three, I could definitely see though next year.
Mhm. I guess I'll roll into the next one. I'm gonna go with you know I guess I might die on this hill, but I'm taking Deontay Johnson. Um, Currently, according to Player Profiler, he's the wide receiver 28. According to DLF ADP, he is the wide receiver 30, and I'll take that all day. We're looking at a guy. Uh, he was sixth in the NFL in targets, 13th in target share. There's a lot that he's really good at. 18 red zone targets, that's 10th. Um, 0 touchdowns last year. He was second in unrealized air yards. And this guy's just a target hog, and that's exactly what we're looking for in fantasy. Um, I'd be willing to trade a back end of the first. Like I'll trade the 112, 111 for Deontay right now, and I think you can probably get him for 2 seconds. Uh, I believe he finished as the wide receiver 30 last year. Let me verify on Sleeper real quick because I don't like to, just make stuff
Yeah, I
up.
think he was wide receiver 30. I'm looking at it right here. PPR, he was wide receiver 30, and standard, he was wide receiver 46.
Yeah, and so I think he's severely undervalued right now, way under market of what he'll probably be next year. All it's going to take is 5 touchdowns, let's say, to push him into that mid wide receiver 2 territory, mid to high wide receiver 2, and it's I think that's easy money. I'm making trades everywhere for Deontay right now.
Yeah, I like Deontay too. I like Deontay. I think those reasons are great. I think I'm buying him at a reasonable price like that. The only reason I'll be honest, I'm just not totally into him is I invested a lot into him last year in redraft and got kind of burned by that. So it's a
Yeah.
little biased. Okay, I know there's no scientific reasoning, but it's just I feel like he's definitely gonna be better than last year. I still am.
He has
He's a
to
buy
be.
for me. He's still a buy for me. It's just after seeing that, like I've seen things go terribly wrong, and I still don't love the Steelers offense. So there's still a little bit of skepticism where he's not my number one buy, but he's definitely on that list for me.
This is where I am. Like, I wouldn't be against buying Deontay if it's for the low, but the way I see it is I think as a wide receiver, we've seen the peak. I mean, last year he was a wide receiver 1. That's the time that you should have been selling Deontay, in my opinion. He's 26. He's older than DK Metcalf. So I'm not really trying to buy, because to me at 26, if I'm trading for a player, I usually don't like to trade for anybody that's older than 25 years old. Like, it's hard for me to even like try to trade for DJ Moore right now because like I love him
What?
and he's but no, just the price is outrageous for DJ Moore right now.
Sure.
So like if I can get him in a draft and he's mine, then I love to have him. I can sell him for the high, but I'm not paying the high for DJ Moore. But I just feel like we've seen Deontay's peak, and I want a player that hasn't reached its peak yet, is the way that I look at it.
Okay, we might have seen his peak, but the last season we saw his low. We saw the floor. It doesn't get any worse. It's his worst season he's ever had with no touchdowns whatsoever. So let's play this or that. Would you rather have Keenan Allen or Deontay Johnson?
I mean, obviously Deontay Johnson. Keenan Allen's a dinosaur.
All right. Would you rather have Mike Williams or Deontay Johnson?
Same reasoning.
Okay,
Ask me something like Brandon Ayuk or Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, okay. Brandon Ayuk or Deontay Johnson?
I'd rather have Ayuk.
Crazy.
I think
Christian Kirk.
I think I'd lean Ayuk.
Oh, jeez.
Because Ayuk still has the chance. We haven't seen Ayuk ceiling, and who knows if they're gonna pay Ayuk. So Ayuk can go to another team and be the number 1.
Does he even get a ceiling? That's the issue with Debo just signing a contract extension last year.
But that's the thing. If they just pay Debo, you think they're going to pay Debo and Ayuk?
No.
So they can trade him to another team that needs a wide receiver 1, and he can see his ceiling with another team. I'd rather sit on that than.
What is the actual possibility that happens? I think you're reaching for stars right now. I think best case scenario, he goes to free agency and he signs. I don't know. He goes to the Patriots or something that needs a wide receiver. A team that's really needy for a wide receiver. They're few and far between. I think it's a little bit grasping at straws of what could be with Ayuk rather than
he's just in a loaded offense. There's not really a lot of room for him to reach his ceiling when everybody else on his team is at their ceiling. So I don't know. Maybe we can revisit it after because I mean Ayuk's going to be the youngest playmaker on that team going into next year, so he could have his best year going into this year, and like we could not be realizing it. But I think Deontay and Ayuk's a good conversation for after this season.
Yeah. Let's go with the guy slotted across from him, right? Who would you rather have at current ADP? Would you rather have George Pickens or Deontay? And keep in mind, George Pickens is going as the wide receiver 23 off the board.
I think I'd rather have Pickens. He's worth more right now. I'd grab Pickens and move him. I wouldn't keep him.
Well, that's the point of buying low. Is Deontay is gonna shoot up. It's bound to happen. There's no possibility.
If you're asking me who I'd rather trade for, I'd rather trade for Deontay if I really needed him because he's cheaper. But if you're asking me who I'd rather have on my team for free, like in a startup, I'd pick Pickens because I can move him for a lot more than I can move Deontay for.
Even in a startup, I'm not taking Pickens at the wide receiver 23. I'm not taking Pickens over Jerry Jeudy. I'm not taking Pickens over DJ Moore. I'm not taking Pickens over Hollywood Brown.
I think that one's debatable. Hollywood Brown can't stay on the field.
DeAndre Hopkins is on the trade block.
I mean, you're right, but that doesn't mean he's going to stay on the field. And he's not going to have a quarterback for the first.
Well, you can't bank on an injury.
With Hollywood Brown, we could pretty much bank on an injury. I think we've seen that at this point. He's just a small guy. He's a small receiver.
Whatever. You guys are haters. Go ahead.
Like
go ahead with the second one.
Deontay for the low is worth it, but I don't know.
It's cool. I'll die on my hill.
I think Deontay is properly priced, if you ask me, at this point right now.
Then I'm buying. Steve, why don't you go ahead? Sorry, we did a little bickering right there, man.
No, you're all good. All right. My second buy is Deshaun Watson. So, I mean, I'm sure some people don't love Deshaun Watson off the field, but I don't really take any of that into account. I'm just looking at his football production alone. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't expect Watson to be good at all this past year. So seeing him not play very well at all, and then his ADP dropping is fantastic for me as a buy. So if I look at keep trade cut, he is the QB. No, I can check, but I think QB 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. QB 10 at the moment. And I think he's below Fields, Murray, and Lamar. And I think that's properly priced. Besides, I'd probably rather have Watson than Murray right now, just because of the uncertainty around Kyler and the injury.
Call me crazy, but I'd rather have Watson over Fields just because I don't like the Bears.
I could see that too. I'm actually a Bears fan, so I watch a lot of. I might be a little biased, and it sucks. I know the Bears are terrible, but I think Fields has the potential to be a great player, and I don't really like the narrative that he's a runner. When in college, he was a passing prospect.
Exactly.
He really ran, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
He throws a pretty ball. He's just where I think if Fields played in a dome, he'd be a much. I don't know how much I'll take that into account, but I think say the Falcons went out there and made a big push for Justin Fields, and I think with Pitts, with London. That he could really succeed there, or say the Ravens, they swap for Lamar and a little bit plus. I really think Fields can succeed in somewhere like Baltimore, but it's just the Bears that throws me off. Like the type of Bears things they do, like going to get Chase Claypool, thinking that he's gonna help Justin Fields as a quarterback. Bring in DeAndre Hopkins for a season, and then we'll see what Fields is really made of.
Yeah.
My issue with it is that they did not protect this man whatsoever. I'm pretty sure they released a couple O linemen prior to the season last year. And then all of a sudden, he has to run for his life 50% of the time, and everybody's like, oh yeah, he can't throw the ball. Yeah, no shit. Because he doesn't have more than 2 seconds to get the playoff.
Right. Yeah.
But Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Okay, so Deshaun Watson.
So what are you giving for Deshaun Watson? Because I'm all with giving, even if it's a risk. If it's 2 firsts for Deshaun, I'd really think about it or do it, or if it's a split, if it's a first this year and then a 2024 first, I'd even think about that more. But what are you paying for Deshaun Watson?
I would pay either I could give up a top 5 pick this year or maybe 2 late first. I feel like that's about his appropriate price range. If I had to give up a little more, like, a small piece, I could do that too. But
Like, could you give up like the 1-3 and like the 2-3 for Deshaun?
Oh yeah, I think.
Yeah, I
easily you
could.
do
I
that.
could easily, honestly. When you're looking at the quarterbacks in that range, like, I mean, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud are good, but give me Watson over them.
Yeah, I'm. What Watson was a top 5 quarterback every year
Yeah.
while he was in Houston,
Yeah,
if I'm not
that was
mistaken.
one of my points. Yeah, Watson was a top 5 quarterback for 3 years straight, 2018 to 2020. So he has an insane floor ceiling combination when playing full year, obviously. And then in the Texans were terrible then too. Like, they had
Right.
D Hop, like, but that was about it. Like, their line was average at best, and they had no other weapons besides D Hop. And the Browns are not amazing. We're not going to act like the Browns are a top 5 team, but I'd say they're much better than the Texans. Their offensive line is graded by PFF at almost near the end of the season as a top 5 passing line, which is surprising to me.
He has Nick Chubb. He has a good defense.
Yeah, Nick
he
Chubb.
has. I think really people are really. I think Peoples Jones is a good second wide receiver to have. I wouldn't say a good second wide receiver to have, but I think for Deshaun Watson, the way that he can get out of the pocket and the way Donovan Peoples-Jones stretches the field, I think he's a good player for Watson to have. But yeah, I'm with you. I'd pay.
I agree.
I'd pay even like the 1-3 and like the 112 for Deshaun.
I'd do that too. Yeah, I could go with that. They also have Njoku, who I like. I feel like he could be good.
I love Njoku
He had
a
a great
lot too.
season too.
He had a great season even before Deshaun Watson came into the picture.
Yeah, exactly. And Watson played well near the end of the season. And also, one of my last reasons why I like Watson is he has the most guaranteed money in NFL history. Like, even if it's a Russell Wilson type thing for me. Even if he's not top 5, he's going to be a starting quarterback for the Browns for the next 3 years.
At
like,
least.
They've invested into him. They're going to build around him. They're not going to go and shop him or not bring in weapons for him. Deshaun Watson is the guy that they're investing in, and that's very important to have that consistency at the QB position.
Do you think they become, because obviously the Browns for the last couple of years have been super heavy in the run with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So I know you said they're going to bring in some weapons, but do you think that philosophy changes over there as well?
It seems like it changed more, but it did seem like it changed more though. I feel like they weren't pounding, they weren't, throwing the ball 50 times a game, but it seemed like they were leaning more to throwing the ball, a more balanced approach. That's what I'm looking at. I don't think they're going to necessarily be running the ball 30 times a game or passing the ball 50 times a game, but I think they're going to be balanced because they have that investment in Watson now. That's where I'm at.
I think they're going to, because having Deshaun Watson, who is a running quarterback, is going to open a lot more, at least for this season, however long they have Nick Chubb for, is going to keep the defense on their toes and allow them to have even a better rushing attack than they did before. Because if there's one, Deshaun Watson, he wasn't good at putting the ball downfield, but he could get out of the pocket. He could run for first downs. He could still use his legs. His legs weren't rusty. So I think that it really opens up the running game a little bit more, but I do think they lean on the pass more than they have because, I mean, they had Baker Mayfield. They couldn't really lean on his arm like they could with Deshaun Watson right now. But the thing about Deshaun Watson is you can lean on his arms and you can lean on his legs.
I agree.
Yeah.
I guess my next buy. I have another guy that I really like. He's much more wanted than Elijah Moore is right now. But I'm really, really, really buying him everywhere, and it's Rachaad White. I think Rachaad White is a great buy this year. We just saw what he could do when Leonard Fournette wasn't on the field, and I think we all think that Leonard Fournette's not gonna be back with the Bucks again, and it's more of he was a surprisingly great runner in between the tackles, but it was just the way he caught the football, and maybe that was the Brady effect that he just loves to have a running back to throw to. But we forget that Brady was without how many of his top offensive linemen, like 2 or 3, for almost the whole year. Those guys are going to be back, and they're paid. So, and they're going to be running with who knows at quarterback. So I really think that Rachaad White gets a healthy workload going into this year, and we can see what he can actually do as a number one back. But I mean, just that alone, like I traded the 2-1 for Rachaad White. Like that's how much I like Rachaad White right now.
I think
And
that's fair.
yeah, I really think that he's gonna have a good year.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. That Tampa Bay running game scares me a little bit, but Leonard Fournette's not getting any younger, and he's a much better pass catching back, in my opinion, than Leonard Fournette is. Um, and so if he gets the snaps, I can definitely see him having a much better year, finishing in the
I mean,
mid.
even last year without the snaps, I'm looking at his things right now. He never played more than 60% of the snaps twice,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a wide receiver 1 or 2 6 times. So I mean, I think if he gets the volume necessary, that he could be like, he's not as explosive, but he can be like a Tony Pollard type of player, have like that type of year this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having a pass catching back like that on your dynasty roster can be pretty valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. I like him to finish somewhere in the mid teens next year, maybe like 16-ish in that range, um, as long as he gets that workload and Tampa Bay doesn't do anything crazy like draft a running back this offseason.
Yeah, I like Rachaad White. I think he's a good buy for me. I'm not really sure what the situation with Leonard Fournette is, but he
I
did
heard
look
he's a cut
amazing
I
last
just
candidate.
think
year. Yeah,
I just think he looked, no matter what, he looked
yeah,
better than Leonard Fournette. When they
he
Yeah,
both
did.
got the
yeah, he
opportunities
did.
and he was on the field, he was just a better runner, a better
Mm-hmm.
pass catcher,
Yeah,
more reliable. I mean,
yeah, yeah. I'm just not as excited about him because we don't know what this offense is going to look like next year.
Right.
Who's going to be their quarterback? What are they?
this team could be
What's their going to be the
tanking. That's why I
identity?
like Rachaad White. Like he could just
Yeah,
be
that's
that
true.
one piece on the team that has a good year type
That's
of
true.
thing.
that Kyle
It's
Trask to
also
Rachaad White connection.
yeah, yeah. We'll see.
Blaine
Yeah, I'm not
Gabbert
sold
taking
on him.
taking
But
the reins.
I'm not completely sold either, but I do think it's a good buy. It's a good shot in the dark, and
yeah,
let's see what happens. I think he has as good a shot as anybody else, as any of the other running backs in that range to increase his value.
right.
I mean,
I
with
agree.
he had um let me see.
See, I don't always disagree with you, AJ. Just just when
just
it's
a,
fun too.
just about receivers.
Well, you're definitely going to disagree with my next wide receiver, because I'm going to go with the sell, and I'm going to go with your boy from Dallas. I'm going to go with CD Lamb,
I'm not
and
before you start, all I'm gonna say is if you can get a mother load for CD Lamb, then you'd be dumb not to sell him. But if you're selling CD for like the 111 and the 112, like that's just
oh
not worth it
yeah,
to
of
me.
course. This is not
Yeah,
about. Let me preface this. Add some context. It's not selling low on CD Lamb. I don't want to get him off my roster. Let's not be hasty here. He's still a young, productive asset, and he's a really good football player.
Talk about a target hog.
My thing with CD Lamb, right, is he's currently the wide receiver 3 or 4 in Dynasty, depending on how you feel about AJ Brown. But realistically, this is as high as it gets for him. He's not. I don't think he's the talent level to break into that Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase tier. But I think wide receiver 3, if you can get what 2 first, let's say you get the 104 and a random 24 first, and then what you might be able to add a second on top, maybe. I think he's definitely, if you can sell him high, I'm all for it. Um, just based off current values. based off he's the wide receiver 3 right now. Add more pieces to your team and try to build some more depth.
Just the way I see it is, this is the kind of trajectory. Everybody, don't listen to. No, I'm not saying don't listen to Tim, but like CeeDee Lamb is literally giving you the blueprint and what you want in a receiver in a dynasty team. He's gotten better every single year. It's not like Deontay Johnson when he had a trash year, then 2 good years, and then another trash year. He's gotten better every single year. And how many times does Dallas throw the football per game? I mean, if you think about it, how many times does Dak throw the football per game? It's even better. Like if I'd understand your arguments, like, because we don't know what's going to happen. So if they add like DeAndre Hopkins, if they add Mike Evans, if they add Keenan Allen, then I'd want to move CeeDee Lamb for as much as I can.
What if they drafted Quentin Johnston?
That's not going to happen.
Why not?
I'll tell you this:
they drafted CeeDee Lamb when they had Amari Cooper.
They drafted CeeDee Lamb because they fell to him at a stupid place. I mean, CeeDee Lamb was supposed to go top 10, and they got him at the 17th pick.
Any of these wide receivers could fall.
None of these wide receivers in this draft, in my opinion, are as good as CeeDee Lamb was. I had a college career like CeeDee Lamb. Maybe you can make an argument for JSN, but I mean, CeeDee Lamb had a really great, he was the best wide receiver coming out of college that year. Besides, who else got drafted?
Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson, but he went
Jalen Reagor.
He went way later than CeeDee Lamb. He went the 22nd, 23rd, 24th pick. Mm-hmm. So I mean, even his stock wasn't that high. It wasn't until he boomed after the first year. Just as the way I see it is, he's just on a trajectory, and I think he hasn't had his best year yet. And I want him on my team for his best year.
I think the Cowboys' blood is showing in you, man. I think we definitely saw his best year. We saw career highs in pretty much everything. Let me, not just talk. 156 targets, the most ever for him. 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not repeatable for him. I think Jerry Jones is willing to win at all costs. I think they definitely like to have 2 very good wide receivers over there. And why not have 2 that are on rookie contracts? I could definitely see them drafting a wide receiver this season, or adding somebody. I don't know who's the best wide receiver free agent, like Jacoby Myers or something, or Juju. But even then, it's still going to take away some targets now that, and plus Michael Gallup's healthy again. I think this is the ceiling we've seen for CeeDee Lamb. I could see him having some longevity and, being a top 10 wide receiver for, the next 6 years or so. But as far as I like to buy and sell people who are going to grow or decrease in value. And I think his value can only decrease. And for those reasons, I'm selling.
Yeah, I agree with both points. I think CeeDee Lamb is a top 5 wide receiver for a long time. And I'm not sure I would sell CeeDee Lamb for an early first this year and a future first, just because even though he might, I don't think he's going to get into that top 2 tier with Jefferson or Chase.
No, he never will. But if he's in that 3, 4, 5 tier, he's still just as worth it.
And I also do agree that I think there is a good chance the Cowboys bring in a rookie. I mean, they're invested in Dak. They're going to, even though his offense is good, they're going to bring in more guys for him.
Yeah.
And I think his value can go down, but I'm not sold that it can only go down. I think he can stay as the wide receiver 3 or 4, whatever.
Let me tell you something, Tim.
You're looking at.
He's plateaued. It either stays the same or it drops.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, though.
Yeah. I feel like just because he has a number 1 fantasy season doesn't mean he's the number 1 fantasy wide receiver. Like, he could have an outlier year because, it's just he's a 3rd-year wide receiver. It's that 4th year that you really look for, because not every receiver, we're just have so much recency bias because of Chase and Justin Jefferson. Like, nobody comes out and is just the best receiver their rookie year. it takes a couple years to build that. And I just think that CeeDee Lamb could be one of those type of receivers that in his 4th, 5th, 6th year has his best years.
Okay, so would you trade CD Lamb for, let's say, Devonta Smith and the 105?
No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either, honestly.
I would take that all day.
Then trade him to me.
Give me the 105.
You're telling me you'd take Devontae Smith and basically Gibbs for CD.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't.
Absolutely. Especially if Gibbs gets the right landing spot. Or, that's the
You
first.
can get so much more for CD. You can get like
These quarterbacks are going to get hyped up. I think that's going to be the first position player off the board outside of Bijan at the 105.
I have a more interesting question for you. Could you trade the 1-1? Would you trade CD for the 1-1 straight up?
Yeah. Yeah, give me Bijan.
I don't know where to go with that because I think Bijan's career can finish and CD Lamb's still good. This is the way that I can look at it.
But look, you got to look at positional scarcity, right? And you got to look at market value, right? It's not necessarily about, am I going to keep these players for 8 years? Because that's not what happens in Dynasty. That's not
running back such a weird position because it's the ones that you don't think about that win you championships. Jerick McKinnon came out of nowhere, and how many championships did he win for people? And it's just like that year after year that the guys that you don't even know are going to be in your starting roster week 1 win you the championship week 16. So even though that's a more compelling argument, I don't think and I made that argument myself that I couldn't trade CD for the 1-1. But that's just me.
I'm absolutely trading CD for the 1-1. The 1-1 is going at the 1-2 turn of startup drafts right now. CD's going mid second.
So then let's do what we did earlier. This or that. Would you rather have AJ Brown or CD?
Me personally, I'll probably take CD.
Okay, what about Amon-Ra? He's not going that much farther than CD.
CD. I've got CD Lamb as my wide receiver 3.
Okay.
Until something happens, I don't think the Cowboys will draft a wide receiver or anything like that, but I think it's a real possibility. And I'm all about hedging your bets and insulating your team.
Like I said, I'm not against selling TD, but I've sold TD before. I've just had to get what was worth it going forward to me out of CD, not just like, I guess I'm okay with the 1-5 and Devontae Smith. Like it has to be like, kind of have to be getting an overpay if you're getting rid of CD, in my honest opinion.
I agree.
Nah, I disagree. But that's why we have these conversations. So
another question,
different mindsets out here.
CeeDee Lamb or Garrett Wilson? Which one would you rather have?
Straight up, CeeDee Lamb. He's in a much better situation with a more stable quarterback. But if you said give me Garrett Wilson and a mid first for CeeDee Lamb, yeah, I'll take that.
Damn, I'd have to think about that one too.
I'd take Wilson in the mid first, to be honest. There,
yeah.
I
like Wilson.
It'd have to be like the 1-5 or the 1-6. It couldn't be like the 1-7.
Or the Devontae Smith is going. I think he's going before Garrett Wilson in startup. Nah, he's probably going a little bit after.
Nah, he's going later. At least Keep Trade Cut says, and from what I've seen in general, Smith is a little later.
I've got DLF January ADP pulled up.
Where's Smith's ADP?
He's going like around Jake London. He's going around.
Oh man, they got him as a wide receiver 14, and Garrett Wilson is wide receiver 10.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that.
So then, would you take Olave and a mid first for CD?
Olave and Wilson are right there with me. Personally, they're neck and neck.
Yeah.
I think they should be going one right after the other. With Garrett Wilson.
I guess the way I'd look at it is like, what can the Saints really do with their team to make Olave better going forward?
At a quarterback?
They're strapped for cash.
The same thing the Jets can do.
I mean, but the Jets have cash. The Saints have nothing. The Saints are paying Taysom Hill.
All right. I'm advocating for Jameis Winston. He's got LASIK. He's better than Andy Dalton.
Okay, I like it. So then, who are you selling, Steve?
So some of my big sells are Isaiah Pacheco, and I know I'm gonna
Mm.
get a lot of hate for that,
It's cool because
but
Jameer Gibbs is going to Kansas City.
yeah, well, I think Pacheco is a great player, but just like we talked about, I don't see his value getting any higher than this.
Yeah.
Like coming off a great Super Bowl performance, great playoff run, great first year. I mean, I think we're just looking more into the what could be from Pacheco versus like the floor. Like it's just
Hmm.
historically proven that these running backs that are late round picks
They just
aren't
get
the
shuffled.
teams are not going to be committed to them. I
Yep.
think he could be great next year, but 2-3 years down the road, I don't think he's going to have this type of roller value. And
And
especially,
Yeah,
he's
I'm
not
with
even
you.
a great pass catcher
I
either.
just I just think the way the Chiefs are
On top of
run,
that,
that they can get a Pacheco again in this next
yeah,
draft,
I agree.
Yeah.
and he can be what Pacheco exactly was going into this year. And I
I
mean,
don't.
because the Chiefs draft very well. They had the fourth most rookie snaps in the whole
Mhm.
NFL, and they won a Super Bowl. That's supposed to be a type of rebuilding year for them. So I mean, they have for trading Tyreek Hill, they have a shitload of picks this year and next year. So who's to say they don't add someone this year like Sean Tucker, or they don't add
Right.
someone like like that
Yep.
type of running back that can
Hmm.
because if we look at Pacheco, like how many carries did he have a game realistically? I don't think he had more than 15 carries in a game, 16
Yeah.
carries in a game. So and he didn't really have a nose for the end zone either. That was
Right.
so I mean it's just hard to
Um.
start it's just hard to start a Chiefs running back consistently because Patrick
Mhm.
Mahomes takes all the touchdowns.
So I do like Pacheco for the next 2 years. I'll say he's on a rookie contract. I don't see him. I don't see the Chiefs replacing his role because they have no reason to. I can definitely see Jerick McKinnon going elsewhere and then bringing in, a primary pass catching back like Jameer Gibbs. Um, but I do like Pacheco to steal some. I like him as the 1B over there for the next couple years. But I'm with you on the sell. I don't see his value going up anymore. I don't see his production going crazy unless he has like a 15 touchdown season. And, like AJ said, he's not great at finding the end zone. He had 5 total touchdowns last year in 17 games. Like, it's okay, but it's not something worth buying, in my opinion. So I'm right there with you on the Pacheco sell.
I mean, y'all might hate my sell. And I mean, a lot of people are. I just think where he's going, and he's worth it right now. I mean,
I
had a
hate it
fant-
already.
he had a fantastic year, but for the same reasons why Tim would sell CeeDee Lamb, um, I'd sell I'd sell Monra for what I can get right now. If
Okay.
I'm being completely honest, he's going in startups in the third round. I mean,
Hmm.
do you want
At like the beginning of the third, too.
like would you rather have he's going like neck and neck with Jalen Waddle, and I mean, who would you rather have
Hmm.
if we're being realistic? Um, Jared Goff looks like he's going to play one more year. We don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. We Amonra is also, I wouldn't say a smaller frame, but he's not the biggest receiver, so I'm scared that he could catch an injury or have a stretch of injuries that really plague his career. But I mean, like I'm going against my own argument because his first year he had a year much like CD. His second year he was even better. So I mean, just the way he's a target hog, he's that only option. I just really think that Jamison Williams could emerge and take that production from Amon-Ra, and he won't be that top 10 receiver that he is in fantasy right now. So I'm trying to get the value that I can for a top 7 or 8 receiver while I can get it, is what I'm trying to say, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, no. I see what you're talking about. The emergence of Jamison Williams is going to take some of that production away. You're looking at Amon Ra being 5'11", 197. Not small, but he's certainly not stout by any means. Um, he runs through that slide and he plays it very well. And I think he's definitely at the height of his value right now.
Yeah, I like Amon Ra, and I like him where he's at. I don't think he's a buy or sell for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that Jameson point. I think he could lose some value, but I also think that he's not going to lose a ton because where he's going to lose some targets to Jameson. Jameson's also, like we talked about, an elite field stretcher that fits perfectly into his role of being an underneath target hog. And I think the Lions' offense is going to get better. I don't really see his role changing, and I think Jameson's really going to help with that, if anything. So he's going
Yeah.
to lose some targets, but to counteract that, I think he's going to have
You
more
think
space to do what he does best, and I think that's going to put
right?
him right back where he fell from. So I don't have
Less
him as a buy
targets,
or a
more
sell,
efficiency
but
kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I can see that point too. I think you're gonna see his production drop. It won't be crazy. You're gonna see, instead of top 5 to 10 production, you're gonna see, top 15 kind of production. So I don't think you're gonna see anything significant, but it will be. I think it has to be a little bit less if
He
Jameson Williams is as good as everybody says he is.
he has to catch I guess the knock to me on him is like he has, which is good because we play PPR, but he has to catch a shit ton of balls for him to be that top 10 wide receiver. Because I mean, he reached the 100-yard mark 4 times all year. He only scored 6 touchdowns all year. So like, which is great, which I love to have on my team. He caught for 10 passes or more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, which is a lot.
I like that.
So
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Um,
but
I
that to
don't have,
me,
yeah.
what that goes to
Yeah.
is that sounds exactly like last year's, not last year, but the year before that, Deontay Johnson season, because that's what he did. He caught a shit ton of balls. He had around 1,000 yards. He had like 7 or 8 touchdowns, and people were loving Deontay Johnson. So I'm not saying that he's on that same trajectory. He just has to catch a lot of balls for him to be
Mhm.
a wide receiver one, and he's going as a wide receiver one right now.
Look,
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson is just Amon-Ra St. Brown with less production. All right. Yeah, Amon-Ra was third in target rate, targets per route run, with 32% of on a 32% of the time he ran a route, he got a target. That's insane. I don't know, man. It's I'm talking myself out of selling Amon-Ra St. Brown really fast, but I don't disagree.
Like I said, it's an acquired taste, but just for me, I'm always when I'm building a dynasty roster, I wouldn't say that I love to have picks, but I'm always looking forward for what I'm
Mhm.
trying to do. Like Amon Ra is going to help me right now, right this second, and unless I'm trying to win this year or next year, then I'm trying to move him for as much as I can get to win 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
Yeah, I got you, man. I got you on that.
Like if I could sell Amon Ra for the 1-2 right now, I'd do it.
I think you. I don't.
If
I
I'm
don't know
getting
if you
CJ
can,
Stroud or
but
Bryce Young for Amon
yeah,
Ra, then I'd do it.
right. I'll go into my last sell. We're running on an hour and 15 minutes. It's a little longer than I thought it was gonna be, but hey, it happens. So my last sell is gonna be Debo Samuel. I'm just looking to tear down. I don't think Debo is gonna be any better or worse than he was last year. But I think we saw the peak of his value already with the emergence of Brandon Ayuk, just cutting into that workload for him. So I'm looking to sell Debo for a first and a first plus. Maybe you can get, I don't know, Jahan Dotson and a mid late first, somewhere around the 1.9 range for Debo. Um, just looking to move him to insulate my team a little bit, add some more depth. Same
You got
thing as I
you got
said
to
about CD.
you got to catch that team that's trying to win now, that has that piece or two that you like, to try to like convince them like this is going to be what puts your roster over the top. Because like to be honest, I'd sell Debo like for whatever I can get because of his age, because he gets injured, because there's an uncertainty at quarterback right now, because CMC looks like he can be legit in San Francisco. So how much is he really going to be running the football now? Which is where I think a good amount of his value comes from. We saw Kittle reemerge at the end of the year. Ayuk is just a better catcher of the football than Debo is. And they use a lot of their other pieces in a lot of different ways too. I just can't trust. I trust that they're going to get the ball in Debo's hands. So if I'm selling him for something that's egregious, then I'd rather keep him and play him in a flex or one of my wide receiver spots. But yeah, I'd to be honest, I'd sell Debo for something like another younger receiver in a second round pick.
So
Or
Debo Samuel right now is going off the board as the wide receiver 18, 52.7 ADP. So that puts him around the beginning of the 5th round. Wide receivers going after Debo: Michael Pittman, give me Pittman. Cooper Kupp, believe it or not, he's going as wide receiver 20. I'll take Cooper Kupp straight up over Debo. Brandon Ayuk, I think I'll do Ayuk in a second for Debo.
yeah, like if
DJ
I can get
Moore.
like Jerry Judy or Ayuk for a second and a second for Debo, then I'd do it in a heartbeat. Even if I can get like someone to get off of Bateman and like the 112 or the 111, then I'd do that too.
I think you can get more for Bateman. You can get 1.8, 1.9, kind of the same range as Dotson. I think they're pretty interchangeable. But yeah, that's my sells. That's about it for the show today. I appreciate you for coming on, Steve. Super awesome. Hoping to have you back on again after the NFL Combine.
Yeah.
Kind of let us and the listeners know all the things you've learned, saw, and all the secrets.
For sure. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and plug yourself up one more time? Let everybody know where they can find you at.
All right. So again, my Twitter handle is @SteveBradshawFF. I write for Face Off Sports Network and Dynasty Nerds. You can find my author page of articles on my Twitter, or if you just want to look up Steve Bradshaw Fantasy. And yeah, hopefully I'll be back on the show soon after the Combine and give you guys some new information about that and get to have a draft conversation.
We'd love that. Next time it would be strictly what you saw at the Combine.
Yeah. I'd love to do that. Yeah.
If anybody actually listens to any of our buys and sells, tag us on Twitter. Me, Tim, Steve, any of us. We'll retweet it. We'll give you our input on it, anything like that. But I'm kind of interested to see what any of y'all can get for any of the players that we named, because if I see a tweet that someone traded CD for Devontae Smith in the 1.5, you're probably gonna get a little bit of a rant from me on Twitter.
I love
it. But that's just not maximizing the value, man. You got to
maximize. You're getting a 3rd and a 4th round startup for a 2nd round startup. That's a
still
dub.
Rather have CD.
Yeah.
Rather have the number 2 on a team and a running back and a pass catching running back that might not even be better than Rashad White for CD Lamb.
You're being a homer. Whatever. Let's get out of here, man. I'm hungry. It's dinner time. I got work tomorrow.
See you later.
Shout out to the Get Right Fantasy Network for having us. And we'll see you guys next week. And, I appreciate all the support. That's it for me, and I'm out of here. Peace.
Peace, everybody.